quick note before we start. This episode includes discussion of suicide and mental health struggles. We don't go into graphic detail, but if this topic feels heavy for you today, please take care of yourself first. And if you or someone you love is struggling right now, help is available. Resources will be in the description. I was thinking, as parents, how many days do we end up having that are finally here? You know, like when they're babies and the day they take their first step, the day's finally come, my baby is walking. And then it's kindergarten. The day has finally come, my baby's going to school. And then they turn 13. The day is here. My baby is officially a teenager. Last September, I had 2 of those days within the same week. My son turned 18 and he started his senior year of high school. And now the day has come and passed when my son graduated. Parents, let's actually talk about this for a minute. We spend so much time celebrating our kids on graduation day, and rightfully so. They worked hard, they earned it, they deserve every bit of recognition they get. But can we acknowledge ourselves for just a second? What about the sleepless nights, all the rides to school, the lunches that were packed with love, the parent-teacher conferences we painfully attended, the projects that are due tomorrow that somehow weren't discovered until 9:30 the night before, requiring an emergency Walmart run? What about us? We are the real MVPs. But honestly, that's not even what keeps us up at night. The projects get done, the lunches got packed, the permission slips got signed 5 minutes before they were due, because that's how children roll. No, what keeps us up at night is this weird realization that all of these days we thought would never get here actually got here. The first step, the first day of school, the first heartbreak, the driver's permit, senior year, graduation. One by one, they all show up, stay for about 5 minutes, and then disappear. And suddenly you're staring at this adult, technically, legally, allegedly, and they're ready to make decisions on their own. And you're standing there mentally flipping through a filing cabinet labeled, "Shit I was supposed to teach you." Did I cover credit scores? Did I explain interest rates? Do you know how to change a tire? Do you know that just because somebody says they love you doesn't mean they deserve access to your life? Did I tell you that one? Because that's an important one. And if there's anything we forgot, we suddenly feel this overwhelming urge to cram 18 years of wisdom into a 6-week crash course before they leave the nest and face plant directly into adulthood. And then there's the part that nobody really talks about. What happens when you've spent 18 years being needed every single day and suddenly the job description starts changing? Because, make no mistake, it does change. They still need us, just differently. Maybe they're not asking us to tie their shoes anymore. Maybe now they're calling us and asking us what their social security number is, or where the Q-tips are, or how to file their taxes. But little by little, they start building a life that doesn't revolve around us. And if you're anything like me, that can be really scary, especially if you've ever struggled with depression or anxiety or even addiction, or any of the other little gremlins that sit quietly in the corner waiting for an invitation back into your life, because now there's space. And if we're not careful, we'll fill that space with the very things we've spent years trying to overcome. So here we are. Parents, we made it too. We survived. Some of us barely, some of us while dealing with things nobody knew about, some of us while carrying burdens we never talked about, some of us while fighting battles that had absolutely nothing to do with parenting and everything to do with simply staying alive. But we got them there. And now we have to trust that all those talks, all those lessons, all those times we repeated ourselves until we wanted to slam our heads into a wall actually mattered. Because every once in a while, if you calm your neuroses down long enough, whether naturally or Xanax induced, no judgment here, do you, your child will show you that they were listening all along. And if they don't, well, I don't know what to tell you. Lock them in the basement. Okay, maybe don't do that. My point is, we did all that we could do. Now it's time for them to start making some of their own mistakes. I tell my son all the time, there's no point in making the same mistakes I made. I can tell you exactly how that movie ends. Not fun, 0 out of 5 stars, wouldn't recommend. Go make new mistakes. Don't try to make mistakes, but you know what I mean. And maybe this stage of life isn't about losing purpose. Maybe it's about finding a new one. Which brings me to today's guest. My guest today knows exactly what it's like to feel empty. She knows exactly what it's like to lose hope. And she knows what it takes to rebuild a life when the old version of you no longer fits. Her story isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. She's you, she's me, she's every woman we know. This is my conversation with Angie Hawkins. Today's guest is Angie Hawkins, author, speaker, and inner glow coach to women. 5 years ago, Angie hit rock bottom after a suicide attempt cracked open everything that she thought she knew about herself, her worth, and what it meant to succeed. What followed wasn't an overnight glow up or a neat redemption arc. It was a radical, messy transformation that forced her to confront perfectionism, self-loathing, and the exhaustion of constantly trying to earn love. Today, Angie helps high-achieving women stop dimming their light to be accepted and learn to love themselves so deeply that the world can't help but reflect it back. She's the creator of the Glow Method, the author of Running in Slippers, and someone who speaks honestly about the parts of life most people edit out. This episode is about the cost of perfectionism, what happens when survival cracks you open, and why self-love isn't fluffy, it's necessary. Angie, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Jojo.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're here. And I feel like I should say this up front. If someone is listening for like an inspiring success story where everything suddenly clicks and life becomes easy, this is not that episode. This is more like, things got unbearable. I didn't want to be here anymore, and somehow I stayed, which is honestly way messier and way more impressive, I feel like.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing that out because I feel like people see me now and they see someone who's confident and happy, but trust me, it was not always this way. And very
Yeah,
early on in my healing journey, it was still a huge struggle because I had a lot of things that I needed to change in my life. And it was because I had hit rock bottom, it was a pretty intense situation because I needed to work hard and fast. So there was
right.
urgency to it as well.
Right, right. You've described yourself as a perfectionist and overachiever your whole life. Something that I've learned throughout my adult life is that perfectionism doesn't come from confidence. It comes from fear in a really nice outfit. Or sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, my anxiety that probably has its own LinkedIn profile. when when you look back now on everything, what did achievement and being perfect actually give you emotionally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I like how you describe it as fear and anxiety because those are the underlying feelings behind it. Because perfectionism, because I used to justify it by saying, well, I just have high standards or,
Hmm.
like what is wrong with achieving? But perfectionism is setting impossible standards for yourself and then beating yourself up if you aren't perfect, which is
Right.
completely unrealistic. And how that started for me is there's many different things that go into this, but I would say the two primary things were one, both of my parents were extremely emotionally unavailable.
Hmm.
So, as an adult, I understand what that means, but as a child, you don't have the tools or knowledge to be able to
Right.
interpret that kind of situation. So, as a child, I developed the belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So there was that, which is huge. But in conjunction with that, my mom was extremely critical and she would criticize things that I could not change. Like, so for example, she would criticize my face a lot because of she didn't like my complexion and things like that.
Mm.
There were things about my personality that she would criticize. So those are part of who I am that I
Right.
can't really change. So that just fueled this belief that I didn't deserve to be loved.
Hmm.
So when you have that belief, you're seeking love and approval and everything outside of yourself. So the overachieving, that's where it came from because it's like I had to get good grades in school. Anything I did, I had to do it perfectly because I was seeking my worth and all of these things. And the criticism added fuel to the fire because I thought I had to be perfect all of the time to avoid criticism. And
Yeah.
that wasn't true because even if I thought I was doing something well or whatever, my mom would still find something to criticize me about. So it was this
Right.
never ending hamster wheel. And it was like so exhausting, but I didn't know any other way to live.
Right. I really can relate to that, to a degree, where
Yeah.
I felt, I think especially when I was younger, growing up too, that, I had to, like, if I didn't basically make everyone happy, that
Yep.
it made me somehow unlovable. And that was a constant thing, that whether I even recognized it or not, I think it was something that I just inherently did.
Yeah, that
Where,
was another thing. And I feel like that's more on the people pleasing scale, but people
yeah.
pleasing and perfectionism are very closely related because
Right.
I was that way too. I always felt responsible for my mom's emotions.
Hmm.
And I mean, so I was basically her emotional caretaker as a child. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility that we just don't need as children.
Right, right. I was just having a conversation earlier today with someone, and we were talking about that very same thing. And we kind of started laughing because we were referring to ourselves as, when we were young, as like little emotional interns with bangs.
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, I don't love it, but that's funny.
Right, because it's so true.
I thought you were going to say, because like in hindsight, I consider myself my mom's emotional support animal. And that's what I thought you were going to say,
Yes.
but I actually like yours better.
That's funny too, though. I really like that. But yeah, it's the same difference, same thing. Oh wow, yeah. As you kind of then moved through, like, obviously your teenage years and into your early 20s and everything, before you got to the point where you would say that you felt suicidal, Was there a moment or a time frame where you knew like something was wrong, or was it more like a slow unraveling?
Yeah, I would say it was a more slow unraveling. There were periods where I knew something was wrong in the sense that, like, because, there were so many things that spawned off of this limiting belief. And I never would have described it this way at the time. But in hindsight, I would say that I hated myself and I had a lot of self destructive behaviors that really, it was basically self-punishing. So I'll
Yeah.
give you a few examples. I struggled with eating disorders for a long time, and that mostly came in the form of under eating and over exercising. I
Hmm.
would say it was more harmful on the over exercising side. Like I would run like 40 miles a week, and 20 of those miles would be on a long run. And I would run if I was injured, and I also lifted heavy weights. But it really wasn't because I enjoyed it. It was just more of this like self harm and self
Yeah.
punishing cycle. And like I knew it was destructive, but on the other hand, like, so for example, running, I used it to dissociate from my feelings and numb my feelings. So it was also providing a benefit for me. So it,
Hmm.
it wasn't bad enough that I thought I needed to stop or needed serious help. But there were moments like throughout these things where it was like, this probably isn't the best way to handle things, but it's kind of working. So I guess I'll just keep doing
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, maybe doing those types of behaviors, you at times can like kind of trick yourself or tell yourself that, hey, I'm exercising, I'm being healthy. Like tell yourself that you're doing something good when really in the back of your mind, you're actually hurting yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And not only are the stories that we tell ourselves dangerous, but things like that are actually positively reinforced by society
Yeah.
because some people numb their feelings with drugs, alcohol, porn, and things like that. And
Hmm.
those are frowned upon by society. But like exercising, overworking, and certain things like that, they're actually positively reinforced.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like validating the justification going on in your brain.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you've shared very openly about your suicide attempt, and I really appreciate you trusting this space with that part of your story. Um, if I may ask, what do you remember most about the aftermath? Like, not so much the moment itself, but really what came after everything was said and done.
Well, in the immediate aftermath, I actually felt worse than I
Hmm.
did before because the emotional intensity of how I was feeling was still there.
Right.
And then I would go as far as to say it was traumatic because I had to stay in the hospital. I ended up going to the psych ward. So all of that just added to the emotional intensity of the experience. So I was feeling lost and not really sure of what the next steps were.
Hmm.
But when I got home from the hospital, I called a friend and I told her everything that happened. And I ended with, I can't believe I didn't die. And her response was, it's not your time. And
Hmm.
that was so profound. And it actually made me think. And I was like, she's right because I could have died and I didn't.
Right.
So I think I'm here for a reason. And her words actually gave me hope, which was the one thing that I was lacking prior to trying and
Hmm.
immediately afterwards. So that was the huge turning point because her words
Yeah.
actually gave me hope for the future.
Right, right. It's wild how one sentence can interrupt a story you've been telling yourself for a really long time.
Yeah, and that was like the perfect thing to say, right? Because she could have said anything, and like that one sentence made me think.
Right. Right. Yeah. Sometimes the universe like ignores you forever and then and then
Yeah.
sends like a, an emotional messenger right on time, right when you need to hear something. And yeah, I love that she did that and she said that to you. And I'm sure for her it was like, wasn't something that she even really had to think about. She meant it, when she
Yeah.
said it. Yeah. So when she said that to you, um, what did that kind of like, did it hit you immediately or did it like kind of maybe hit you a little bit like after the fact?
No, it hit me immediately because when she said it, it sent a cold chill through my body. And I was
Yeah.
like, yep, this means something.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Sometimes, or something else that I feel like we learn as we get older too, is that healing, isn't always like candles and affirmations, right? It's
Yeah.
like, sometimes it's like, we're crying in the car and then we still have to go inside Walmart and grocery shop.
Yeah.
So, what did the healing process then actually look like for you, moving on from that point forward?
Yeah. And thanks for bringing that up because that's what people think healing is, like the kumbaya moments.
Yeah.
And I had so many failed attempts at that earlier. So I always call after my attempt my healing journey in earnest
Hmm.
because what I ended up doing was I actually thought about it because I was like, I need to get help. And I thought about the ways that I had tried to get help before, like traditional therapy, spiritual practices, reading self help books. And I was
Hmm.
like, nope, none of that worked. So I'm not doing any of that. Because again, there was an urgency to it because it's like, I need help and I need help right now
Yeah.
and I need something that works. So I invested in myself and I hired a coach. And through working with him, we had to do a lot of shadow work, which was basically me acknowledging how I had been contributing to my downward spiral,
Hmm.
which is not easy, but acknowledging that was the first step to really making any changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I really agree with that. I think healing is when you start the healing process, especially after a period of time that you've been really, really low, healing is sort of realizing that the voice that's been telling you this whole time to, disappear, that was never wisdom. It was,
Yeah.
pain. It was pain with good grammar. One of the things that you talk about is moving from self-loathing to self-love. How would you explain the difference between that?
So the way that I ended up doing that, well, first of all, it was working through my coach, but because you brought up affirmations before,
Yeah.
and because the problem is we have these beliefs in our head. So, for example, mine was I didn't deserve to be loved. And I
Hmm.
had like all these others that spawned off of that, but that was my primary one if you peel back all the layers of the onion.
Hmm.
And like affirmations would be like, well, yes, I do deserve to be loved. And that's basically, I think it can work. I think it's very inefficient and can be very ineffective because it's just forcing a change in the belief. But how we did it is I would actually change my behaviors. So, for example, I had zero boundaries because I didn't respect myself. So,
Right.
I had to learn how to respect my time, respect my energy, and actually set and enforce these boundaries, which was very difficult because
Hmm.
my belief was still running the show. But in time, it became more comfortable. And because I was acting in accordance with this other belief, I eventually started believing, like, yeah, I do deserve to be respected. I do deserve to be loved.
Right.
So it's a longer process, but by changing your behaviors and acting in accordance with the new belief, you actually change your beliefs.
Right. Right. I read something one time. This was a long time ago, but I never forgot it because it was exactly about what you're talking about. And it basically said that self improvement is like saying, I'll be okay once I'm better. And self
Mhm.
love is saying, I'm staying even when I'm a mess. Like I'm okay even when I'm a mess. And self-love is, it isn't just liking yourself, it's refusing to abandon yourself when you're unbearable,
Yep.
not making it so that you're never unbearable. You know what I mean? So yeah, I thought that was really impactful and really
Yeah, that's
important.
a good way to describe it. Well, and especially from a perfectionist,
Yeah,
because like I always wanted to avoid the messy moments. So that really forced me to practice self compassion, which is also
yeah.
a big, huge part of self love.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now, I definitely want to talk to you about the glow method. Can you walk us through that, and who is it actually for?
Well, overall, my inner glow coaching is for women who are chasing love and approval, and I transform them from chasing to radiating it from within so that they're actually generating their own self love and approval. And
Nice.
the GLOW method is an acronym, and G stands for go back to your childhood because we're all operating on some kind of program that's based on underlying limiting beliefs that were formed in our childhood or teenage years. And while those strategies may have been effective when we were younger, they're no longer effective as adults.
Hmm.
So, to really get to the root of the problem, to find a meaningful and lasting solution, we go back to your childhood and find out what that core limiting belief is, and then build a roadmap off of that. And then L stands for light yourself up because my current coaching program is called Shine from the Inside. And it's based on this concept that we're all born with this light inside of us. You know, because you see kids, they're like running around and screaming and they just do not care.
Right.
But then, you go along life and like society, your family, or whatever tells you what you should or should not
Yeah.
do. So you start conforming to these things outside of yourself and it starts dimming your light. So even though the growth process can be long and take time, there are so many quick wins you can do up front by rekindling that light inside of you because it's been dimmed.
Hmm.
And then O stands for overcoming external validation. So that's the basis of the program because you want to go from seeking external validation and things outside of yourself to generating it yourself so that you don't even care what anyone thinks of you.
Hmm.
And then W stands for welcome yourself back home because another reason I struggled with self-help and some of these other healing modalities is because the messaging is that you need to fix something about yourself or fix who you are, but like you really just need to come home to yourself and welcome yourself back home to that light inside of you. It's not
Right.
about fixing or changing who you are as a person.
Yeah, I love that, and that makes so much sense. And because you're right, we're constantly being told, especially women, are constantly being told that they need to change something about themselves. Whether it's
Yeah,
physically, emotionally, anything. So yeah,
right.
yeah. What's one small shift that someone could start today and do to really change some things for themselves?
I would say the number one thing, because as adults, I think we get wrapped up in adulting
Hmm.
and like, let's be honest, it's not very fun, right? Because you're working, you're running errands, you're doing all these things you have to do.
Right.
So, like, the biggest win that you could do is do at least one thing a day that brings you joy. That's the first thing I tell anybody to start
Hmm.
rekindling that light inside of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great advice, really. You had mentioned in your submission that your quirkiest coping mechanism is a goddess walk, which I love. Sometimes confidence isn't a mindset. It's just walking like you're not apologizing for existing.
Yeah.
So sometimes healing is even just lying to your nervous system, until it believes you. So,
Yeah, and that's exactly what the goddess walk is because I usually do it in situations where I'm nervous.
yeah.
And actually, I also call it the celebrity walk. So, like, for example, I went to this event a few weeks ago, and like someone had invited me, and I knew some of the people there, but I didn't know everyone. And I was feeling awkward about going. So
Hmm.
when I was in the parking lot, I was like, I'm just going to walk in like I was a celebrity. And I did, and it's more like nervous system priming, because it's getting my nervous system like feeling safe going into that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I really love that a lot. You know, and something I just wanted to, I guess, tell you that I feel like ever since, I read your submission and you and I talked, a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that just kind of kept like going through my head was that I really think that the bravest thing that you did really wasn't so much changing your life. It was making the choice to stay alive long enough to hate the one that you had, to do something different, to be different, And I love that for you. I really do. I think that's just so powerful.
Yeah, and thank you for acknowledging that, because like the first month afterwards was really tough.
Yeah,
And I don't think I give myself enough credit for that. So thank you for acknowledging that.
absolutely. Absolutely. I would think that that's also got to be a bit confusing to yourself in those moments because, you obviously, when someone makes that decision, the plan is not to survive it. So when you do, now you're kind of sitting there going like, well, okay, now what? Now what do I do? So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
especially being a perfectionist, I was also beating myself up because I was like, now I just made things worse, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah. Like I went down that shame spiral. So
right, right. Yeah. If someone listening right now feels like, they're listening to this and they're thinking, wow, this sounds like me. But, but they might feel like still a little stuck. What do you want them to know?
first of all, I want them to know that they're not alone. I think a lot more people are going through this than are talking about it, which is one of the reasons that I talk about it, is because one of the reasons why it happened is because I felt so isolated and alone. And even now, I'm part of an attempt survivors group. And
Oh,
it's
really?
just crazy to me how many other people there are, but it's like we're not talking about it. So I promise you, if you're feeling that way, you are not alone. And the other thing I tell people, because I know it doesn't feel this way in the moment, but there is hope. And trust me, I am living proof of that, because I did not see it myself. And it took surviving and a friend telling it to my face for me to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree and I completely relate. I've been there myself and just like you, I think during those times you think, I remember very vividly thinking that there was I just did not see a way that I would
Yeah.
ever feel joy again or, you know,
Yeah,
be
and it's such
what I
a dangerous
was.
place to be, because
Yeah,
because in your mind you're like, it's just not even possible. Yeah, because
right,
that's exactly how I
right.
felt. I was like, nothing is ever going to get better, and I truly believed that.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And even, because I feel like this is something too that's really important is even, and I'm sure you could probably say the exact same thing, that when you're going through it and maybe you hear someone on the radio or the YouTube or wherever, and they're saying what we're saying is that it does get better. There is hope. But when you're in that moment, you just think, well, maybe so for other people, but not for me.
Yeah,
And that's what I really wish, like there was a one true way, to like get through to really get through to people and so that they understand. No, it is for you too. I promise you. But
I
it's
know, and
so
that's
hard.
another reason. I kind of hate that I sound so confident and happy now because I think that makes it sound even more unbelievable to someone who's in a dark place. But like, trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Right, right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, Angie, thank you so much for sharing your truth in a world that prefers edits. um, where can everyone find you and follow you online, as well as find your book, Running in Slippers?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to discuss this freely because this is a very heavily censored topic. And
Yeah,
again, there are so many people going through this, and it's like we need to be talking about it more. So, thank you for this platform, first of all.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But if anyone wants to get in touch with me, the best place is my website, which is runninginslippers.com, which is also the name of my book. So there's information on my book, which is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. And just a short plug on my book, it basically covers a 5 year period of my life that was a total train wreck. It includes my attempt and a little bit of the healing afterwards, and it's a memoir. It's totally vulnerable. And the reason I wrote it that way is because I feel like we tend to hide behind filters and edits. So the
Hmm.
entire goal of the book is to encourage connection through vulnerability. And there's also information on my coaching program. And again, my current coaching program is called Shine from the Inside. It's to help transform women from chasing love and approval to radiating it within themselves. And I do offer a free 60-minute Find Your Glow session where we will go through G of the Glow method, which is go back to your childhood, and we'll figure out what that limiting belief is so that we can create a solution for going forward. And I'm not for everyone. My coaching program is not for everyone. So if it's not a good fit, I know other coaches and have other resources that I can refer you to. So the entire goal of the call is to get you help. And I cannot guarantee a breakthrough, but everyone I have that call with has a breakthrough. So it at least first of all, gives you hope, but it also helps to put you on a path going forward because you know what the root cause is and you can find a solution for what changes you need to make.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That is wonderful. I will also have all of Angie's links to socials and to her website on my website as well. And if you're listening and life feels heavy right now, you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. As always, let's continue this conversation in our private Facebook group, No Hard Feelings, kinda, the after party. And we'll meet back here next week, same time, same place. Thanks again to my guest today, Angie Hawkins. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And I will see you guys next time on No Hard Feelings, kinda.